But now we got the 2024 season for the Red Sox, and I think they're down by a game and a half in the wild card. So we look at the rest schedule. We know they're going to be playing the Marlins this week, and well, speak of the devil, they got the Yankees.
Yep.
Can we see the Red Sox make a little comeback, get that second wild card spot?
Absolutely. I think, the question with this Red Sox team early on in the season was, what are they? What is their identity going to be? Because heading into the season, there were a lot of question marks surrounding this roster because they didn't do a whole lot to address a ton of needs super aggressively. And the expectation from fans was that the front office was going to do a lot more to address this roster than they did, especially from a pitching standpoint. But their pitching staff has been one of the biggest surprises in the best way possible for this team this year. And I definitely credit Andrew Bailey for that, who they brought in this offseason to work with the pitching staff and really hone in on what's the strengths of some of these guys, what are their weaknesses. I actually got to speak to him at Red Sox winter weekend, and he basically told me a little bit about the approach of the pitching staff this year and just really personalizing each pitcher's experience and catering to their strengths. And I think it's really paid dividends for them this year. And we're starting to see more things come together as of the last few weeks. I mean, they had a rough May where their pitching staff was still holding things together, but they couldn't hit, or they were playing really poor defense. And there were just a lot of other issues coming up. They've also been absolutely plagued with injuries this year, which is another big thing to keep in mind with this team, is they aren't fully healthy yet, but they're going to start getting some guys back pretty soon that could be key pieces for this team. The momentum really started for them when they won a series against the Phillies and then a series against the Yankees back to back, who at the time were the two best teams in baseball. And so I think that really sparked some momentum for this Red Sox team to show that they are capable of beating the more competitive teams. They had a rough series against the Padres over the weekend, but hopefully they can get back on track against a Marlins team that has been struggling this year. And hopefully it leads to them continuing to play good baseball. They've shown that they are capable, and I absolutely think I could see them landing a playoff spot. And if they do, then the biggest part of the team to thank for that is the starting pitching and how good they've been this year, because that was something that definitely was unexpected that we wouldn't have seen coming early on. But they definitely are set up to be in a good spot to get a spot. And like I have said to people before, you just have to get in. You never know what's going to happen in the postseason. Last year's Diamondbacks specifically can tell you that. You just have to get in, and then anything can happen. And I think the Red Sox are showcasing and putting on display right now a lot of the young talent that they have, that they as an organization have been trying to develop, who are going to be key pieces for the future. Some of those guys are really coming along this year, and they definitely are establishing what that core is going to be. So they have the talent. It's just going to require them adding a couple pieces at the trade deadline and getting their guys back healthy.
Well, and I noticed that a lot of one seeds just kind of fell off the wagon last year. And, anybody that says, oh, they're the one seed, they're going to win it all. It's like, yeah, you're throwing the cart in before the horse. You just don't do that.
No, you really don't know. And I mean, again, the Dodgers are a good example of this, a team that a lot of times are a favorite to go all the way. They win 100 plus games basically every year with the roster that they have, and they should be going all the way. But even once again, going into this year, I'm not sitting here saying I'm putting my money on the Dodgers to win it all, because I just don't trust them, because they consistently find a way to choke in the playoffs. And that's why they play the games, and you really never know. And baseball is so crazy when it comes to the postseason. It really is the team that has the momentum at the right time that could go and win it all. And I mean, I don't think many of us would have expected the Diamondbacks to go to the World Series last year. And that just goes to show that's why you have to play the games and, have everybody come together at the right time. So I still think it's, kind of wide open right now. I think there's a lot of competitive teams in the American League, but the Red Sox are right in the mix right now. So they are set up to get a spot. They just need to keep playing the level of baseball they've been playing over the last few weeks because that's a team that can be really competitive.
Well, you just mentioned about the Red Sox, about how they're gonna get some of their guys back at the right time, and I noticed that the Twins are on their schedule still, and the Rangers, the defending champion Rangers, I still can't believe I'm saying that. That's amazing in of itself.
I know. I mean, the Rangers have been disappointing this year for sure. I think there was a lot of expectations on them going into this year since they won the World Series a season ago. But relative to them last year and what they looked like in that whole championship run, they certainly have not looked the same overall this year. The Red Sox struggled against the Twins early on this year. So that's going to be an important series for them, too, is can they win that series and come away with, hopefully grabbing two of those games because the Twins are close to them in the wild card standings as well. That's another team that could still make a wild card run later on. So that's going to be a key series for the Red Sox. They have to beat those teams that are closer to them in the standings right now. So hopefully they're able to grab that series against the Twins because they struggled against them the last time they played.
Well, and something I noticed is the Twins always struggle in the big moments, and the
Yes.
last time they've had a World Series was time I wasn't even a thought in 1991. I wasn't even born in that time.
Me either. Yeah, I know. They are another consistent choker year after year after year. So they're another team that you can't really trust when it comes to locking in the big moments and getting it done. And that's why you can't really count anybody out in baseball. Once they're in, they have just as much of a shot as anybody. And I think what it's going to come down to in these next few months, as we're already 3 months into the season with 3 months of the regular season left to go, when I reflect on the Red Sox first half and think about the second half, guys are really starting to find their place on this team and where they belong. And Alex Cora has been great with managing some of their strengths that they have on the roster. Like they have exceptional speed on the roster with three very fast guys who are there right now that can bounce around from base to base and put pressure on opposing pitchers. So I think when you take all of that into account, Alex Cora deserves a ton of flowers for the way he's managed this team this year with all the injuries, but also these guys are really starting to find their identity overall as a team. And I think that's what's really important when it gets closer and closer to playoff time.
Well, it's gonna be fun seeing what happens with the playoff race, but I bet ESPN's all broken up about the fact that the Dodgers come up short. It's like,
Oh yeah, every year they hate that because I mean, especially with, their payroll right now, there is so much pressure on them to win a World Series with how much money they spent this offseason. That would be very bad for them if they don't at least come out of the NL and go to the World Series. So there's just so much pressure on them. And yes, ESPN loves the Dodgers narrative. So they're going to have to do something big in the postseason in order for them to stick to those storylines.
well, I hope the Braves beat them in the postseason this year. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. The Braves are a very good team again this year too, which was to be expected. And I hope you guys are enjoying Chris Sale because we definitely do miss him a little bit. I think it's hard to not appreciate what he did in Boston and just how good he really was during that 2018 run. And that team in general was just so good. But that was prime Chris Sale, and we're always going to appreciate that. And I think with the Red Sox focusing more on looking towards their future, being able to get a young, talented player in Vaughn Grissom has been nice. I mean, he's been injured and has not been able to play a lot this year, which is unfortunate because I think there's so much potential there. But I know the Braves had trouble parting ways with him. I mean, he was a top prospect in their system, but unfortunately, there's just so much of an overload of talent that the Braves have right now that there just wasn't really a spot for him. So I think the trade ultimately worked out for both teams because Chris Sale is somebody who could help the Braves be in a position to win now. And Vaughn Grisham, somebody who could continue to develop and hopefully be a star for the Red Sox down the road.
A win for everybody. It's kind of like that scene on The Irishman where they're trying to agree on, you're 15 minutes late, you're 10 minutes late. I'd say 12 and a half. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Happy medium.
That's the way the news goes.